Happy Halloween!
It's us again!
Yeah.
I am Decepticon Doug!
I am Predacon Paul!
Welcome to Moving Pictures!
Today, we are reviewing the movie!
The House by the Cemetery!
Hey, Decepticon Doug!
Yes, Predacon Paul?
Why are skeletons so calm?
Tell me.
Nothing gets under the skin!
What is a vampire's favorite mode of transportation?
What, Decepticon Dog?
A blood vessel!
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Whew, we're back.
Seems like that's all it takes. Tell a couple bad jokes, and here we are, back in the flesh.
It's like Beetlejuice, you know?
Yeah.
Beetlejuice.
Don't say it.
Okay, my bad.
Trust me. Last thing we need is to deal with that.
You bunch of losers!
Welcome back to Moving Pictures.
Ugh.
I'm your host, the alive Predacon Paul.
I am the living incarnation of Decepticon Doug.
That sounds way better than mine.
We rented The House by the Cemetery. Turns out it's a 1981 Italian film, although it takes place in New York and Boston.
Yes. Okay, we're entering spoiler territory for those of you who might want to watch this movie.
Yeah.
So, basically, this film centers around a family, husband with beard. He basically looks like what like the hipsters now are basing their particular look off of.
Yeah, it's very of the time. Yeah, that's what I find. These are the things that date movies: is the soundtracks and the hairstyles.
Yeah. So, what the fuck happens in this movie? He's an investigator. Movie starts, boobies.
Don't get too excited. The only boobies of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's how they hook you in.
yeah,
right?
it's hook, line, and sinker. They're like boobies. Here you go.
Dude, there was no reason to have this topless girl.
Not even a little bit.
And then she's looking for her boyfriend, who
Apparently, made it and left. Like they
did the thing.
She didn't even like finish putting on her clothes. She's like, "Where did he go?" Typical guys.
Typical.
Yeah.
And then she starts looking for him, and then she gets stabbed in the head, and she dies.
Yeah. Actually,
So that's like
it has very little impact on the actual plot of the movie. It's just one of those things that happens in horror films.
Yeah, it's like it further fuels that this is a dangerous place to be, because obviously this is where the family ends up moving to. So the story centers around this family of three: hipster dad, housewife lady, typical 70s horror film housewife lady,
Yeah.
and a blonde kid that has some type of telepathic connection with someone who's connected to the property where the blonde girl died at the beginning of the movie. There's a picture of this house. I don't know why there was a picture of the house. There just was. Daddy Dearest got this job to go investigate Dr. Frankenstrudel. Freudenstein.
Yeah.
And then
But actually, I like Frankenstrudel. It sounds delicious.
I'm
Well,
going to make a Frankenstrudel myself.
Yeah, can we just go take a break and make that in the kitchen? And
The kid is looking at the picture, sees a little girl in the window of this house where the blonde girl from the beginning of the movie died, and he says, "She's telling me not to go to the place." And Mama Dearest is like, "There's no one in the picture, son." And then they just pack up their stuff and they go. They get to Boston, they get to the house, and they're like, "Hang on a second, Mama Dearest," says this to the husband Dearest. "This looks just like the house from the picture back in New York." And he says, "Yeah, but it's just an architecture thing. They all look the same." So, was it destiny that brought them to the house? Because nothing's implied that there's any sort of like family connection. It's just they're going to a house and it just happens to be the same one the kid was looking at in the photograph. Why that has anything to do with anything is beyond me.
it's supernatural. Woo!
So then they end up getting haunted by the sound of some baby crying. They get attacked by a bat. The wife has some sort of breakdown. Fun fact, she's got issues that she needs to take medication for. But then they never address it ever again in the rest of the movie. And it's the first time they talk about it.
I definitely have breast cancer.
And then the husband is doing typical horror film husband stuff.
Yes, he's gazing at the camera very dramatically, stroking his chin when he's thinking, and really taking his time looking around.
He's always staring at that. And then they just die.
Yeah, basically.
The girl who's a redhead, who's the little girl who was communicating with the son telepathically. So there's like a connection implied there, but they never elaborate what that connection is or how it came to be, or if she's a ghost or if she's not. And then it's implied that bad things happen at this house, the Frankenstrudel house, because the realtor's assistant's like, oh, the Frankenstrudel place, always the Frankenstrudel place. And then they go off, and then he gets on the phone and calls the realtor. The realtor goes to the house because they want to move out of this place. She gets killed by something with one good hand and one bad hand. Mm-hmm. So a zombie hand and then a good hand. And then there's a basement that no one ever goes into, that no one even checked.
Yeah, you'd think before you sold a house, you'd look over every square inch of it,
And they just bought it and they were like, yeah. And then there's like the babysitter who looks like a mannequin from earlier on, who shows up. She's really weird. And it's heavily implied that she's in league with this demonic force that's in the house.
Yeah, she's cleaning up the blood that he leaves behind. Like, it doesn't seem like it raises any questions. Like, she kind of knows what's going on. But then later on, it's sort of implied that she's not in league with the creature in the basement. So...
because it kills her.
Yeah, that's basically it. It kills her. I don't feel like there was any explanation for why she looked like that mannequin either.
None. So the kid, earlier in the movie, when they moved to this town in Boston, is looking at this mannequin with these big bushy eyebrows, and then the mannequin gets its head cut off, but underneath the mannequin there's like fleshy bits, and it falls, and it's laying there decapitated, and it's oozing blood everywhere. The babysitter moves in with the family. She's got a family someplace, but she doesn't want to go visit them.
I definitely have breast cancer.
And she cleans up this massive trail of blood. And the wife walks in the room, sees her cleaning the trail of blood. She's like, what are you doing?
What's going on in here? Everything okay?
Is everything good?
Looks like everything's okay to me.
Seems everything's on the level.
10 out of 10? You're doing a great job, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah. How's my son? Weird mannequin lady is like, I make coffee. And she's like, awesome.
It was a pour-over coffee. Yeah, it was a classic pour-over.
Wife, dearest, goes to hipster husband and goes, something's just not right. The babysitter. I ask her questions and she won't talk.
He's just like, yeah, she's just like that.
Anybody want to address the fact that there's a trail of blood leading into the basement that looks like a body was dragged from one end of the house to the next? Anybody?
A lot of questions go unanswered in this place, and they seem very okay with that.
A lot of not enough questions.
Yeah.
So that's the gist of the movie. The parents die, the son gets away by the skin of his teeth, and then some weird old lady's like, hey, you're a Frankenstrudel too. Let's go walk off into the trees. I don't know. That's the story.
Because what I get kind of from this film is a bit of a Shining vibe with that ending and with the psychic connection between the girl and the boy. Yeah, there's definitely some influence there. And I think it was actually just a few years after The Shining came out. Unfortunately, the director is no Stanley Kubrick.
Do you know what this movie actually reminded me of? The original Amityville Horror. Because the idea is the house itself is demonic and it's haunted. And then the longer the family lives in the house, the more corrupted the man of the house becomes.
Right.
Until he ends up killing everyone. So I feel like all of those like punch-ins, like get ready for punch-ins, lots of punch-ins.
A lot of close-ups on eyes.
Boom, eyes. Boom, eyes. Boom, eyes. Boom, staring into space. Boom, staring at that wall. Boom, staring at those books. And I think it's like almost implied that the husband is being corrupted by something, but in the end it's just some deformed person living in the basement who's killing people.
I was almost for a little while.
Especially with like the knife being like, there's that whole psycho thing where you see the knife and you see the hand.
Yeah.
But you don't see the individual behind it because the reveal is supposed to be that it's actually Norman Bates, right?
Yeah.
So I felt like there was a reveal coming, but there was no payoff whatsoever for that. It was just, oh look, here's a shot of someone holding a knife.
I think it was just one of those cases where they wanted to take their time to reveal the look of the monster of the films because they didn't want to ruin it right away.
It still looked like paper mache. Although, I mean, I was trying to watch it from the eyes of young Paul, where horror movies, like older horror movies, used to scare the crap out of me. And I was thinking, yeah, this would probably scare me as a kid.
I think so, especially since, like, heads up, this is a gruesome, gruesome film. It's not that the gore is particularly realistic. You can kind of see some of the cracks in the prosthetics process and stuff like that. But it looks real enough that it would definitely fool somebody who's younger.
No, what worked for me was a lot of the transitions I really, really enjoyed.
Although they were inconsistent, because sometimes the cuts were kind of jarring. But usually, actually, the musical cuts.
Yeah, there's like a huge bit of music, and then they like go running up the stairs, and then there's music again.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm probably butchering this name.
Yeah.
I feel like Lucio Fulci had these ideas that sounded really, really great on paper.
Yeah.
But they didn't translate as well over on film.
Another thing is because it does seem like he actually did his homework when he was directing. So I remember one scene in particular where there's a lot of like focus pulling and like reveals, and moments like those are what directors are supposed to do, and it shows his strength as a visual director.
One of the things that you see that I have a huge appreciation for was the fact that there wasn't really a whole lot of inserts. He does a lot of one shots where if he's going to put the key in the door, he zooms in on the door and then pulls back and then racks focus on the person themselves. And then if something's going on with this person over here, the camera will move and then they'll pull in and focus on them. It's a song and dance. It's a waltz. It's a style of shooting that I don't see a lot of. What I'm trying to say is it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard work, and there are certain shots in here where you see the hard work pay off. Mm-hmm. It looks good. And, it does give the movie a sense that there was an artistic vision, even if the story itself and the characters don't really pan out so well. I do feel like a lot of the fault is in the editing, because there's so many stagnant shots of waiting. Unfortunately, it takes away a certain sense of urgency. Actually, this is also partly on the director, because the characters don't have any urgency to where they need to go, to save people's lives.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. So it's.
Oh no.
Yeah, someone's trying to break a door. It's very don't. It's if you were a mother trying to save your son,
you'd punch through that door.
You'd be trying to break the door down with your whole body.
It doesn't look like this. It looks like this.
It's one of those horror films where you're kind of screaming at the characters to stop being dumb. They seem helpless, and they just do things that any moron could kind of find their way out of it. Mm-hmm. The father, stabs the creature, and then he just stabs him once, and then he just the characters kind of let the monster kill them, essentially.
Yeah, he rips his throat out.
And also, even the girl against the door, when her throat is getting slashed, she doesn't seem motivated to preserve her own life. She's in distress, but she still has her throat wide open and her arms aren't in the way, and you just see her her throat get slashed, and it's it doesn't ring true. It comes across as very, very forced for these kills to happen.
In Jason movies, or the movies like Friday the 13th. When you're in that dream world and Freddy Krueger's coming after you, to put it blunt, you're fucked. There's nothing you can do. And those people are fighting tooth and nail. Another thing that didn't work for me was, once again with the house. The house wasn't possessed. There's nothing special about this house. They don't even go bother explaining why they had a picture of that house in New York. And then the kid is going up stairs. Same with the babysitter. And the door closes and then it refuses to open.
Yeah, it does seem like there's a supernatural element.
But there's not. They already explained that. They're like, no, there's no supernatural element because it's just some dude in the basement killing people.
Yeah.
It's literally human error at its finest. Check the fucking basement, yo.
And
At least put in some effort, and then you just sell the house. It's like, well, I wonder why people keep dying and disappearing, and it doesn't smell like rotten meat. And also, the chick gets killed, like stabbed and her head removed, blood everywhere, against the door at the top of the stairs. Stairs, basement, the head rolls down, the body goes somewhere. The mother goes down and checks. Not 5 minutes afterwards, there's no blood anywhere. In fact, there's no evidence that anyone did a cleanup of any kind. There's still decades worth of dust on the fucking ground.
I love how passionate you're getting about this.
Is the house haunted or not?
What's very fascinating about this movie to me is that it does seem like a weird hybrid of professionalism and ineptitude. And it's this weird thing of like, in some ways it's so well made, in other ways it's so incompetently made. I don't know what to believe about it. I honestly don't.
I can't understand what the motivation was at all for them to even go to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Because he ended up going back to New York anyways, to find the graveyard, which wasn't there.
Yeah.
Then he's like, oh yeah, Dr. Frankenstrudel, he faked his death. And the guy's like, I'm telling you, the records don't exist because there's no Frankenstrudel here at this cemetery. But why? What was the point?
I don't know.
They never go to explain any of that. There's conversations too that happen that don't seem to have any sort of like flow to them. They just sort of come out of nowhere.
I definitely have breast cancer.
Like he's talking to his wife and she's just like, oh yeah, and then we went downstairs and then the husband's like, and that's why I have to go to New York. And she's like, today or something. And then it's like, hang on a second. When did you tell her you were going to New York in the first place? It sounds to me like you're trying to rationalize to her why you have to go. Where was the beginning of the conversation? They did the exact same thing with her being on pills. It was like, and that's why you need to take your medication. And she's like, ah! And then she's like, you're right. And then close-up of him staring at the pills on the desk. And then she sleeps. She wakes up.
And then she's fine.
And then she's fine. They never address the fact that she's maybe hallucinating or stressed out about something. They never talk about why she's on the pills.
Screenwriters need to remember that cause and effect is important. You can't just have something happen and give it no consequence. And this isn't just a problem with movies like this. There's more professional movies of bigger budget and higher production value. But this is especially highlighted in this movie.
I think one of the biggest problems is that people think that if they have all this stuff going on and it not leading anywhere, that it will show depth.
And again, it's all kind of about fulfilling promises. There's the literary technique called Chekhov's gun. I think I mentioned it before. If you reveal in a play that there is a revolver on the table, at some point before the play is done, that revolver needs to be used because it's making a promise to the audience. It shouldn't just be there for no reason. And you can basically use that with any kind of plot line or any ideas that are introduced in your movie, whether it's your wife having to take pills for her mental condition, or if it's a big pool of blood on the ground. All of these things, you need to kind of see them through.
There is so many things that sort of take place in the film that don't really have any sort of payoff or at least some type of like explanation.
Yeah.
Why was there a doll? Why did she give him the doll? The redhead.
Yeah.
Who the hell was the redhead? Why was she psychically linked to the kid?
A lot of unanswered questions.
Who the hell was the old lady at the end? What was that forest? Where did that forest come from?
At least with the ending, I kind of feel like it was supposed to be artistic. Movies like this do have an audience. Like, some people just love watching obscure horror movies. There's enough interesting stuff in the movie that I think some people are going to like it. But I'm not a huge horror buff, so I don't feel like I got much out of it. But then again, like, I kind of also went into this episode knowing that I was going to get into like, some obscure random horror film, so
Well, that was the point.
that was the point. So
I give it 2 red station wagons. If it wasn't for the cinematography, this would be 0.5 or 1. But there's a lot of skill and a lot of effort that went into the making of this movie.
It's a shame, but it does make me want to see, does the director have other films that are worth checking out? Because I feel like this guy could have a masterpiece under his belt.
All right, well, thanks
Cool.
for watching.
Thanks for watching. Check us out again at some point in the near future for another Black Dog video movie review.
All right, fuck it.
Good
night.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
A House by the Cemetery?
I can't remember.
God damn it! I'm not even 100% sure of the title!
Oh no.
Oh no!
No. Billy.